So before we get started, let's learn a little bit about Acterra. We are a nonprofit organization based in Palo Alto, and our mission is to bring people together to create local solutions for a healthy planet. We have been around since 1970, which is the first Earth Day, and our focus is in addressing climate change while advancing equity, and we serve the 9 counties around the San Francisco Bay Area. Our objective for tonight's event is to inform the community in understanding induction cooking and also its cost saving and efficiency benefits and how and when to get one installed. And I'll pass it off to Vanessa.
Great. Thank you so much, Jackie. Hello, everyone. My name is Vanessa Shin, and I'm with Peninsula Clean Energy. Thank you so much to Acterra for putting on this event and for all of you for being here. You can go to the next slide. And then the next slide. Great, thank you. So I imagine that some of you may have been following the news about the international climate negotiations happening at the Conference of Parties in Dubai. And I'm here to talk to you about all of the local solutions that are being implemented in our community to really take action on climate change. And so I'm here with Peninsula Clean Energy. Thanks, Irvin, for putting our information in the chat. We are a local public agency that provides electricity from clean sources to homes and businesses, schools, and other customers in San Mateo County. So again, we are already providing our customers with electricity from clean sources like solar panels or wind turbines, geothermal or hydropower. And it's an automatic benefit of living in San Mateo County. So you don't need to sign up. You are automatically enrolled in the service, in which you get 100% clean electricity and also save a little bit of money on your bill. And even if you don't live in San Mateo County, you are likely served by one of our peer agencies. And so there are similar organizations to us that serve the other counties in the Bay Area as well as across California. And so now that we have access to this really clean source of energy through electricity, that unlocks a huge opportunity to further reduce our emissions locally by switching off of fossil fuels and using this clean electricity instead. So I'm really glad that you're here because many of us have fossil fuel powered cooking and stoves in particular, as well as water heaters or space heaters that use fossil fuels. Or maybe we drive cars that are powered by gas, or our buses use diesel. And the good news is that there are so many solutions, lots of alternatives out there that run using clean electricity that don't produce harmful air quality and pollution, and that are just better and more fun to use. So next slide. And so, if you can go back. Perfect, thank you. So I wanted to let you all know that while if you're considering getting an electric stove or replacing some of your other appliances, I wanted to let you know that there are a lot of generous rebates and incentive programs out there. And so here's some of the incentives that are currently available to residents of San Mateo County through Peninsula Clean Energy. And the good news is that this stacks with other programs out there, including federal tax incentives, as well as statewide programs. And so we just want to let you know that right now is a really good time to consider going electric if you have a water heater or a furnace that is getting on the older side, because there are so many generous incentives out here right now. And I will be around to answer any questions in the chat about our programs, but want to thank you all so much for being here, and thanks Acterra for inviting us to this event today.
Thank you, Vanessa, for presenting. And I'll pass it off to Leo.
Great. Thanks, Jackie, and thanks, Vanessa. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of what induction technology is, and why we care about it, and kind of what it means to get into the home before our cooking demo. So just to stay on that first slide. Let's see. There we go. So many of you have probably used what we usually colloquially call an electric stove, or what you might formally call an electric resistance stove or a resistance burner. These are those kind of spirally coil stoves. Sometimes they're under glass or they just like a plate, but any kind of electric stove that you turn on and then it gets hot. And if it gets really hot, it glows red or something like that. That's the sort of standard electric stove that you think of. Induction is a different kind of electric stove. It works in a different way. So if you think about that first, the sort of standard electric resistance kind of stove, that has a metal coil, and electricity gets pushed through that metal coil, and that causes the coil to heat up. It's actually the same way. This happens with any electricity moving through any metal, but sometimes it creates more or less heat, kind of depending on how efficiently the electricity moves. So this is actually the same way that a incandescent light bulb with a little filament works. That little filament is a piece of metal. Electricity moves through it and heats it up. And it gets so hot that it glows bright. And that's also why those incandescent light bulbs are really inefficient and you're not allowed to buy them anymore, because they're producing light just by getting incredibly hot and they have a ton of waste heat. Whereas something like a fluorescent or an LED is just directly producing light. So you have this electricity moving around in the coil that heats up that metal coil, and that heats up a pan that's sitting on top of it. But for anyone who's cooked with electricity, cooked with that kind of electric stove before, sometimes, especially for older models or kind of like cheaper resistant stoves, it can take a really long time for stuff to heat up, right? You have to wait for the coil to get hot, and then you have to wait for that to heat the pan. Really, the only thing you care about is that the pan itself gets hot, right? So the way induction stoves work, they still use electricity. They're just a different way of heating the pan. They use a process that's called induction, electromagnetic induction, to create heat directly in the pan itself. So unlike an electric resistance stove, an induction stove has no heating element. There's no object on top of the stove that's getting really hot to heat up the pan. The pan itself is the thing that is producing the heat and that is getting hot. And the way that works is there's a magnetic field in the burner itself. It's got a coil that's producing a magnetic field that changes very rapidly. It's not a very strong magnetic field, but it's right under the pan, and it changes very rapidly and causes electricity to move around in the pan itself. And that, using the same principle as the electric resistance burner, using the same principle as the light bulb, that causes the pan to heat up. It's not really an electric current in the normal sense that, like, you could never, touch two sides of it and get shocked. It's these really microscopic movements of electricity that are called eddy currents. You can see these little kind of symbols in the diagram here. But that allows the pan itself to get hot. And that means that you can kind of directly control how much power is going into the pan and have a lot more control over the temperature of the pan and the way it's heating the food in it than on those traditional kinds of electric resistance burners. One thing that people sometimes think when they hear about this is, oh, this is this magnetic field, it's changing, it's causing electricity to move around in the pan. Is that safe, right? It's like heating up something that's next to it. If I stand right over it, is it going to like cook me or something like that? And this is totally safe. The magnetic field is extremely limited. It just comes right above the surface of the pan. In fact, if you kind of held the pan just a couple inches above the cooktop, it wouldn't actually get hot. It really needs that direct contact. And it only is doing anything to an iron material that can have this electricity move around in it. So it's perfectly safe for people. This kind of strength and frequency of magnetic fields has no harm on people, with the one important exception of if you have a pacemaker, you're going to want to consult with a doctor before you directly use induction. It's totally safe for someone with a pacemaker to be in the same room as an induction cooktop or to walk past it. But if you're going to be, standing directly over it, and using it for a long period of time, you want to make sure that your pacemaker is okay with that, because it is generating this magnetic field that it's possible could have an impact on the pacemaker. So that's the one circumstance in which you need to worry about safety. Now, the complication here is that this doesn't work with every kind of pan. So in order for this to work, the pan has to be kind of susceptible to this magnetic field. It has to be able to have this eddy current be generated in it. It has to be, the technical term is ferromagnetic. But in practice, what that means is it has to have iron. It has to be the kind of thing that a magnet could stick to. So that means a lot of pans that people might already have or might already cook with won't work with induction. If you put it onto the burner and turned it on, nothing would happen because it's not creating these currents that are heating up the pan directly. There are a lot of pans, however, that are already going to work. So cast iron pans, carbon steel pans, enameled iron pans, those are all always going to work. Stainless steel, it's tricky because different mixes of stainless steel have different kinds of ferromagnetism. But a lot of the time, a stainless steel pan will work. Then it's a little bit rarer for ceramic or glass pots or copper or aluminum pots to work. There are a lot of pots and pans that have something called a base coaster, where they have put a piece of iron into the base of it so that it kind of like has more thermal kind of capacity. It has more capacity to hold and retain heat. And there are also specially made pans for induction, where it might be a copper pan, but they've deliberately put iron into the bottom so that you can use it on this. So, you know, if you have some kind of like copper pan, but where the base is clearly a little bit different from the sides, it's possible that it might work because it might have iron in it. And you can always just check by seeing if a magnet sticks to it. And if a magnet sticks to it, it's going to work on induction. However, there are some kinds of pan that will never, ever work on induction. That's transparent glassware that doesn't have iron on it. You took something like a Pyrex bowl and put it on top of an induction burner and turned it on, it would not work at all. It would not heat up in any way. Similar to a copper-only pan or an aluminum-only pan. Those aren't going to heat up at all. There are a couple of other limitations to induction. There's no flame. So if you want to cook something with a flame, like roasting a pepper, or some people like to heat tortillas directly on like a gas flame, there you don't have this. You're going to have to do something like that in a pan. And it's really important for induction for the, I'll talk about this more a little bit later, but for the pan to have very direct contact with the surface. So if you have a curved pan, like a round bottom wok, you're going to need a special curved induction surface for that to work. You wouldn't be able to just put it on a standard induction surface. But with iron pans and with flat pans, it works very well and often even better than other types of cooking. So why do we care about this? Like, why are we promoting induction when there's other ways of cooking? Well, there's kind of three reasons. One of them you're going to hear about a lot more. I'm not going to spend much time on it here because it'll be a big part of seeing the cooking demo later from Isabel. But a lot of people just prefer cooking with induction over other ways of cooking because you have more control over the power and temperature, the amount of heat going into the thing you're cooking and into the pan, and you can stabilize the temperature very well. It's very easy to kind of replicate ways that you've cooked before. But you'll hear about that more later. The main reason that Acterra promotes it, we're a sustainability organization, is that we want to reduce gas flow in buildings. So this is a picture from the state of California of emissions that are related to the buildings. On the right, you see this kind of big cloud about electricity generation. This is 5 years old, so the size of these clouds has changed a fair amount since then. The electricity cloud is a bit smaller. But this is if you have a fossil fuel plant that's producing electricity, it's burning things and it's producing greenhouse gases. But you just heard from Vanessa earlier about Peninsula Clean Energy. There are also lots of other utilities that are working on this. You can get clean electricity. It's possible to make that cloud just go to zero over time with the grid getting upgraded and with buying clean electricity. So we don't have to worry so much about, as people who live in homes, about that cloud on the right. The cloud in the middle, though, that blue cloud that says 25.7, that one is emissions from combusting things, from burning things directly inside the household. So this is stuff like if you have a gas water heater, gas central heating, and your stove, that's a literal fossil fuel that you are burning in your house that's creating carbon dioxide. Some of it is escaping directly as methane. And those are fossil fuels, and they're causing climate change, and we want to get rid of them. So if you break down that cloud, most of it is actually coming from things like water heaters and central heating. Those take up a lot more gas than stoves do most of the time. But ideally, we want to get rid of all of it, and we want people to be able to live in buildings that don't have a gas hookup at all, so that we're not, having to maintain the gas infrastructure and not having this fossil fuel be used having methane leaks, things like that. A lot of people don't really care, where their what heats their water or what heats their home as long as it gets hot. But many people really care about cooking, and so it's really important to give those people, opportunities to cook in a clean way, that are really meaningful. So that really work for them. So that's why we end up focusing a lot on induction when we're trying to get rid of this middle cloud of fossil emissions. One other side note, which is kind of not related to induction, but an interesting thing to note here, is there this little gray cloud that says 3.2 or 8.9. That comes from refrigerants. And it's actually the refrigerants that are used in older refrigerators and air conditioners, the fluid that's in there that gets compressed and expanded to make the cooling happen. Those are incredibly powerful greenhouse gases. They're so incredibly forcing at warming the climate that just letting out a tiny bit from every 10 years from when your refrigerator gets thrown out in the wrong way, is relevant enough to show up as a cloud here for the individual home. The leakage of refrigerants from refrigerators and from air conditioners that are pretty old is actually a huge contributor to climate change. And so one other note, if you care about emissions, is make sure if you have an old refrigerator or an old air conditioner, when it reaches the end of life, don't let it go to a landfill. Don't let it just sit out in the driveway for a long time. Get the city to come and dispose of it. And basically every jurisdiction in California is going to have some way for you to get that disposed of by someone who knows how to get rid of the refrigerants without them escaping into the atmosphere. So just a side note, anyone who cares about climate change, basically everyone should make sure that if you have a really old refrigerator, when you are not using it anymore, get it properly disposed of by the city and don't just leave it out or let it go to a landfill and let those refrigerants leak. The last reason that we promote induction is something that Acterra didn't really focus on or know about until the last couple of years, which is the health impacts of burning gas in the home. And this is a really active field of research. It's something not a lot of people have heard of, but it's becoming more and more important. There was kind of a big national discussion about this earlier this year or last year. I can't totally remember. So you might have seen it in the news. But there are several long studies from the past decade that have found that just the fumes from burning gas in the home actually have a really negative health impact. I'm presenting here some graphics from Physicians for Social Responsibility, which is an organization that has done a lot of work educating people about this kind of health impact. But the main thing to know is that there are these pollutants that are emitted when you're burning gas: nitrous oxide, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter, just kind of like dust that you can breathe in, that can really negatively impact your respiratory health as well as your kind of like heart health and circulatory health. And there are some really striking findings about, for example, asthma in children who grow up in homes with gas stoves versus in homes without gas stoves. That asthma is much, much more common, and severe asthma is much, much more common among children who grow up in a home with a gas stove. It's not the kind of thing that's going to kill you right away. Many of us, have lived our whole lives in homes with gas stoves, but it does have this really aggregate impact on health at the society level. That's really important. So here's a study that Physicians for Social Responsibility did, where they just turned on a stove and were measuring the air quality of nitrous oxide. And in the middle here, this 100 level, that's the safe outdoor level according to the EPA of those pollutants. And this spiky red line is the level in the kitchen, and the blue line is the level in an adjacent bedroom of those pollutants. And you can see just after using the gas oven and the gas stove for a while, this spikes well above where the safe outdoor level is, according to the EPA. So many of us who are cooking with gas stoves are standing in air that's the EPA would consider unsafe while we're doing all this cooking. Now, I don't want to totally freak you out and make you think, oh, I need to totally transform my kitchen right away. There are a lot of ways to address this. If you just open a window and turn on a fan, the air quality dramatically improves. It gets much, much better when you're cooking with gas. And a lot of these health hazards go away. PSR also recommends cooking on the back burner, so the fumes are a little farther away from your face. Definitely make sure that you have a good carbon monoxide detector. And there are also opportunities, if you have a small induction burner, then you can use that most of the time and then only sometimes go back to the stove. You can visit their website. They know a lot more about this than I do, but it is something really important that we've been learning a lot more about over the past couple of years. And thanks, Irvin, for putting all those links in the chat. Okay, so those are kind of the reasons we like to promote induction. So now if you decide you want to get induction, what are the options that you have? Well, the prices range a lot, and the kind of things that are out there range a lot. So I can't give you a really good sense of exactly what you could be looking for, but a few different ways to install it. You can get a range top that goes directly on a counter. Something that kind of cool about induction is it can be a very, small flat thing. So sometimes people remodel their home and they have like a big counter island or something like that, and they have the stove kind of built directly into it in a way that wouldn't have been possible with other kinds of stoves. So that can be very cool. You can get a just normal big range. A lot of these, unfortunately, require a 220-volt outlet, which might require you to rewire your kitchen. But there are some options around that. These kinds of ranges will always have an electric oven. Sometimes people ask, oh, is there such a thing as an induction oven? The word induction refers to heating metal. It's a way of heating metal. So when we have an oven that the main point of it is heating air, it's not going to be an induction oven. It's just a normal electric oven, the same as any other ones. And then there are dual fuel units that have both, electric burners and gas burners. We don't recommend those, of course, because the gas burners have all the problems that I was just talking about. But in some circumstances, people like to get those. And then there's a newer kind that's been coming on the market and probably will get even bigger over the next couple of years, which are units that have batteries in them that mean that they can use a 110-volt standard outlet, so that the battery can kind of charge and then give you the power you need. And that also they'll continue to work in a power outage, which is sometimes important to people. And then the last and kind of the easiest way to experience induction, one that we particularly recommend, is just to buy a little countertop hot plate. You can get one of these for, somewhere between $50 and $150. There's a lot of different models and a lot of different options. But these are really easy. A lot of the cooking that most people do is only on one burner. It's pretty, only in certain circumstances are you cooking on several burners at once. So this can really easily replace a lot of your cooking if you're cooking on a gas stove. And it's a good way, if you're thinking about investing in a more expensive remodel or a more expensive stove, you can get the sense of how you feel about induction and which pots work and things like that by getting one of these countertop units. And there's some very cool units like this New Wave one on the right that have this wok capacity. A couple other quick notes about things to think about if you're getting induction. A lot of them have loud fans and some of them have clicking noises when the elements turn on and off. So some people are sensitive to that, some people aren't. Just a thing to keep an eye out. Some models are quieter than others. You want to make sure you have a large burner that's big enough size for your pans, because otherwise they'll only really be heating the middle that's right over the element. And doing that for a really long time, because induction can provide a lot of heat directly into the pan, can eventually kind of wear out and damage the pans in an unusual way. So you want to make sure you have the right size burner. And then a lot of these, because they're electric appliances, have these advanced functions where you can kind of time a change in, you can like have some complicated thing you want to do of heating something and then holding it at temperature for 40 minutes and then cooling it, and you can program that all in. Some people really like that, and many other people don't necessarily care about it. Just a couple of notes on if you do get a large range, you're going to likely need access to a 220-volt electrical outlet. You might need a panel upgrade because it draws a lot of current, so that could be expensive. Depending on what kind you're getting, you might want it to integrate with your existing oven, and that might not be possible. And if you live in a place with a landlord, you might need permission from a landlord. And the last thing to note is ventilation is a lot less important with induction because you're not burning gas. But anyone who's heated oil too much knows that it's not just the gas that's creating fumes in your house. So a lot of times people don't think about ventilation and about a fume hood, but you're going to want to still think about like how you're going to get ventilation when you're cooking with induction. And then a couple of resources for you to be aware of. There are some resources out there. I'm not sure if these are completely up to date. I think they are, but they might be slightly outdated from the last time I gave this presentation. But there are some resources out there for finding contractors, for getting rebates for installing induction. And there are kind of some other incentives from the federal government through the Inflation Reduction Act for general electric appliances and for electric cooking appliances specifically. So anytime that you're thinking about a remodel like this, keep all this in mind. There's a big possibility to get rebates from the federal government, from the area, and from people like Peninsula Clean Energy, and from whoever your kind of local electricity provider is. One other note is if you happen to live in Alameda County, we actually have a loan program, and you can test out one of these countertop units from us. And so that's a great way to try out Induction and see whether or not you like it. And that's everything from me. I'll keep an eye on the chat and see if I can answer any questions in there. But now I'll pass it over to Isabel to give you a much more exciting demo of what it actually looks like to cook with these things.
Let me see.
1 second.
Hello, everyone. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So quick introduction about me and my husband, Peter. We are running all volunteer animal advocacy nonprofit and micro sanctuary here in the Bay Area. And tonight we are really excited to partner with Acterra and show you how to cook some plant-based food on our beautiful Induction cooktop. Eating plant-based is another way to reduce climate change and all the emission. Animal agriculture is emitting as much greenhouse gases than all transport combined. So it's really important to vote with your fork every meal. So today we are going to make some crepes. As you can hear, I'm from France. So crepe is a really, is a traditional dish that we've made kind of every week with my family. So I veganized the recipe from my mom, and I'm going to show you how I did that. But I'm going to also stuff it with mushrooms and a beautiful bechamel sauce. So let's start with the mushrooms. So here, all my pots and pans are stainless steel. And I have, you can see, 4 different burners. This one could be combined actually as one if I had a large, long pot. And I'm going to start heating this pot. Oops, there we go. And that's really going to be simple. I'm just adding a little bit olive oil. And I'm going to saute those mushrooms. So I put that on medium-high heat. I'm putting some salt to help remove the water. And we are going to let that do its thing, saute, while I'm going to show you the other one. Okay, so bechamel sauce is that creamy, rich, white sauce that you can put basically everywhere. Well, again, I'm French, so we put cream everywhere. So this, what do you do when you don't use dairy milk from cows? You use cashews. Actually, they are there. You follow me, Peter. So you can make milk, cream, all those beautiful, rich products that you use with dairy. You can make that with nuts. And I'm using cashews. So I'm going to blend half a cup of cashews with a cup of water. And what I'm going to blend, and I have a very high-speed blender. It's super loud. So it's going to, and I know Zoom is going to cut the noise, so you're not going to hear anything for the next minute. But don't worry, everything is working. Just watch what's going to happen with those cashews. Ta-da! So I have this beautiful, it's fine. I have this beautiful cashew cream. So you see, this is how you milk nuts. Really easy. Cow milk is really for baby cow. So we are going to use that. I'm going to look quickly at my mushrooms. Oops, I'm back. I like them really nice and salty, so I'm going to leave it like that. It smells really good. It's very a pity that Zoom does not have the smell. Okay, I'm going to use my small pan. I have a tiny little induction thing here. And I'm going to also put like medium high. So the very good thing about cashews is there is fat in them and there is starch. Because if you do like a white fruit, you would do butter and flour, butter the fat, flour for the starch, and then the milk. Well, here I just need to pour my cashew milk, my cashew cream. I'm making a savory dish, so I'm going to add some salt, some pepper. So I'm not putting my exhaust on. I would usually, but I don't want the noise to interfere. So I'm going to make that a little bit lower. Look how fast they do brown. I don't want that to burn, so I'm going to just lower. The other thing I like to put in my white sauce is some nutmeg. And really good to taste. Mixing everything. And here my goal is to get a thicker sauce. And the magic of cashew is it's going to thicken as I keep them. Okay, so I'm going to supervise that as well as supervising that and start making crepes. For the crepes, I'm going to heat my pan. So again, this is a stainless steel. I cook a lot with stainless steel. The other big pots I have are cast iron. As they were saying, those work perfectly fine on an induction stove. So I'm putting a little bit of oil. And I already prepared my dough for the crepes. You can take any recipe that you like for crepes and just simply replace the milk with any plant-based milk. I love the soy milk from Trader Joe. It's really a simple one that I like to use. And then for the eggs, I use just eggs. It's made based on beans, mung beans. And you could use them really as you use eggs, liquid eggs in any recipe. So this is what I have. Of course, I have flour, a little bit of oil, and a pinch of salt. Let's go back to my mushrooms. I think my mushrooms are really looking good. So I'm going to switch that off. Okay. So it stays there. Let's have a look at our. So it's starting to thicken a little bit. I don't know if you can see better on the camera. Starting to thicken. I want it to be thicker, so I'm going to wait a little bit more. Meanwhile, this must be getting warmer. I'm going just to spread the oil. with a little brush.
I saw there was a question, but I couldn't read it on time. So
Let me read it. Ginny is asking, can Isabel provide comments on cooking with induction versus gas for us? If you know the
yes,
difference.
the difference between induction and gas from a if you cook.
Yes, I mean, it cooked. You see as well. This is thickening. This is really the consistency I want. So I'm going to switch that off. Yes, it does cook as fast. So I mean, you see, all what I've done and the timing I've used to make them is exactly the same as I would on gas. The only difference, I mean, for me, it's like it's way safer. I mean, it's also cleaner for the environment, but it's for me in the kitchen, it's safer. I don't have a flame. I don't, put my clothes or towel or anything on it. So you want to add to that, Peter?
Yeah. Also, if you switch it off like you did now, it's off. Versus, I mean, that's with gas too,
Yes.
but with the coil electricity thing, it's very quick to switch off. And I think there was a.
And really, this is cold. I mean, the glass is cold. I mean, of course, the pot is hot because, as Leo says, the induction is about heating the pan or the pot.
And
okay.
there, I think there was somebody asked how to clean it.
Oh, that would be for Peter to explain. I cook, he cleans. Go ahead.
I think they're just standard cleaning products for glass, for any of the glass cooktops. So they're very easy to clean because there's nothing that can get. There's no like the gas burners and nooks and stuff. It's easy to clean.
Well, we actually wipe it with a sponge.
Yeah, you can just wipe it with a sponge. I think the only thing I heard is that you don't want to have like really hot sugar on top that could kind of burn in the glass, but yeah.
Okay, so my pan, my crepe here is ready. So I'm going to pour the dough in it.
There's another question where someone has a small burner on their induction stove and they want to heat up larger pans. So they're asking if it's worth buying a metal plate to put under the pans. Do you have any experience with that?
No, because we have different size. So I've used the tiny one for the bechamel. I'm using the large one for the crepe. And here I have two that I can actually, two separate burners that I can combine with a very large one if I wanted to. So I mean, every brand has and model have their own setup. So usually you find what works for you. Yeah.
There's another question saying, how much control do you have on the heating settings? Other different heating settings.
So, I mean, maybe I don't know if you can zoom, but it goes from 0 to 9. So far, I've been playing between 6 and 8 because I'm on a high heat. If you want to boil water, there is a speed boost button.
And it's and there's half points like.
Yeah, and there is half point in it. So there is like probably 20 different. So yeah, I mean, you have a lot of control on everything. And then there's timers, but that's.
Yeah. And some models like this one, Peter here, have you can automatically have different levels on the different on the different stoves here. So you can kind of keep one automatically at high, other at medium and low, and you can just change by moving your pot. It's equivalent. And some people in commercial kitchens, they keep like multiple burners always on, and they don't actually change the level of the burning. They just change where the pot is on. So
I'm having a little bit of troubles here. I think I didn't put enough oil. The first crepe, we call it the crepes for the dog because it always kind of sticks to the pan. So Sky would be very happy. I'm going to do another one.
That always
And
happens
that's
to me too.
when we were growing it. We are always like we're fighting for that structure. All right, let me do it.
There's another question saying like, what if like you spill on your induction stove and it's burnt? How do you clean it?
We use just a sponge. I mean, you let it cool down, but we use just a sponge. And then there's some special, let me try to find some product here. If you really want to have it clean.
Second crab. You want it?
Yes. Yes. So there are some special, these kind of products, special products for glass cooktops. And it comes with a sponge and it works really well.
Okay, this is my second crepe. But really, I mean, we've been cooking with induction since we bought the house, which is what, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, when we finally could, have one. This is our second induction top. We had another one we installed actually ourselves. The nice thing also for us is we have a tiny little exhaust, the pipe going through the wall to the roof is too small. It's a small one. So a full gas range actually, could not work, which is another good thing about induction. They produce way less heat. Lost it with heat. Now this one is starting to be good. Any other question, either on induction or the food we are making? Wait, too strong. What else do we want to say about the induction top?
Yeah, from all the pans we had before, only one didn't work. So I know there was we had an old crepe pan that didn't work, but then we just bought another one that did. So we had some concerns about it when we bought it, but it turned out to be a non-issue.
So we have a question about the mushroom pan. Is it a regular all-clad frying pan?
Yes.
Yes, it's an all-clad. Let me see if it's a regular. I don't know. It's a all-clad stainless steel. Oops. Pan.
So someone's asking that their pots and tea kettles have a little lip around the edge. Will that work without scratching as well?
I'm not sure I understand.
So it's not flat? Is that what the question is? It's not flat? The thing is that to work, those pans has to be flat because they have to be in contact. I think that's what Leo was saying for the wok, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to jump in here, I think if it's not flat on the bottom and it has a kind of lip around the edge, it's unlikely to scratch the surface. The surface is very durable. You need real force to scratch it, but it's possible that depending on how far it is from the surface, it wouldn't heat very well. Yeah.
And another question is, what brand is the crepe pan you're using?
It's Le Creuset, which is a French brand, and actually all my cast iron pots are from them too. Okay, so I have a crepe. It looks really nice. So the way I'm going to serve it is put it in a plate with some of the mushrooms. I put that in a pot, the quarter of the crepes. And then I'm going to put, you see how thick it is now? So that's the magic of heating cashews. And then I would fold it like that. So you could serve it right there, or what I could do, and actually that's what I'm going to do after, is like make more of them, put them in a baking dish that goes in the oven, and then maybe sprinkle everything, put some more of the bechamel sauce, and then sprinkle that with shredded vegan cheese. And then basically I have a savory crepe, a gratin of savory crepes with mushrooms. So, yeah, bon appetit, because this is, and again, you know, removing animals from the plate is one of the major ways to reduce climate change, you know, that, and of course, you know, going away from fossil fuel. So I think, I don't know if Jackie posted the recipe of the crepes and the bechamel as I was doing them, but we have a little website where I have recipes and cooking videos, and you know, go see them, watch them, be inspired by them. So thank you.
Thank you for the demonstration. And we did post the links in the chat, and
Excellent.
we'll be emailing them out at the end when we send out the recording.
Yes, and you can also give my email address if people have questions on, you know, be happy to answer. Thank you.
If you have any more questions, put them in the chat.
I'm going to make another crepe.
Yeah.
We were just saying that this was an awesome presentation, and thank you for demonstrating how to make crepes with your induction stove.
You're very welcome. So I'm going to make more crepes. While you have questions.
What was I saw what brand, but I couldn't read the question. What was it, the question?
The brand of your stove.
It's a Bosch. Yeah, we redid the kitchen and went with Bosch. And we had GE before. There's, you know, there's many different brands. I mean, honestly, this probably is more expensive, but you know, we were redoing the kitchen, and so we went with Bosch for the oven and the you know, the top. But it's yeah. But there's so many brands.
The G was nice too.
The G was nice too. Yeah.
And then you have to look also at the interface, how you like it. You know, it's kind of also a design choice.
I mean, the other thing that's really cool that I haven't seen on gas is that it's easy to set a timer. So it has like timers per different element. So you can, you know, cook something for like 10 minutes and then you can kind of walk away and it will stop. Any lessons learned or regrets?
Not really. I mean, we would never go back to
gas.
Regular. I mean, gas certainly not, but even, you know, the electric things.
Yeah. So, and yes, those are two units. They're not combined. They're totally separate. The cooktop.
We had that before adding the oven.
Yeah.
Is the oven electric?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Yeah, everything is electric in our house. We do have solar panel and batteries and electric cars, so we are pretty much, you know, very much electrified.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's regrets. It would be good if they're all a bit cheaper, but then again, the fancy gas stoves are very expensive as well. So, and while we do have gas to the house because it's an older house, but we didn't have gas to the kitchen, so it was easier anyway for us to put the electric thing. But the key part for us was also as Isabel said, the hood, because you need significantly less, air evacuation for induction over gas. Because you have no wasted heat. There's not all this heat coming from around the.
Yeah, I mean, this is cool. I mean, I can put my hands all around. Well, not too close. Yeah. Any other question to us or Leo or Vanessa?
There's a question that says, what level of EMF are emitted by the induction stovetop?
I can take that one. You can find some videos actually of people on YouTube who have like a little EMF detector, and they're holding it out around the cooktop. It is totally detectable. It's like a radio wave. It's a kind of like low frequency emission, but it's not very strong. I mean, if you put it right directly on the cooktop, like you were going to cook it, it's a little bit strong, but it's still a totally safe levels for people. It's, comparable or less than standing over it is like much less than just like using a radio walkie-talkie or something like that. It's really, really confined to right the area around the stove. So there are some studies that you can find that where people look at the sort of impact on human health of this sort of frequency of EMF. And from this level, they've never found any kind of direct impact. It's very safe. But you can go and see on YouTube, there's some kind of cool things where they take a detector and you can see the levels around the stove. Because the detectors are very strong, they can detect even a very, very weak like radio wave.
Yeah, we certainly haven't had any issue with interference of any kind. Also, these big ones, they don't. I mean, I'm sure there's somewhere a fan in there, but you don't hear it. It's totally quiet.
The little one we have.
Yeah, but yeah, you hear the noise of the fan and the boiling, but otherwise you don't hear. It's totally quiet.
Yeah, and then I just see one more question that says, is there any risk for people with pacemakers? And the answer is yes. If you have a pacemaker, you want to check with your doctor before you directly use induction. There are lots of pacemakers that will be totally fine, but that's the only circumstance to check. But like Peter said, there's not, you can put your phone right next to it, you can put your computer right next to it. I mean, you shouldn't put your computer directly onto the stove, but you should do that with any kind of stove. Yeah.
Another question is, how wide is your induction cooktop? 36 inch or 48?
I did
36.
must be 36. It's the smaller one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 36. It's
again, it had to fit under our hood. Yeah.
Or can it be 30?
Wait, let me check.
We'll give you the answer in 1 second. It might be 30.
31.
31. 30, yeah. Again, we went. Well, it's big enough for us. It has 4. We often use 3, but sometimes 4. But we never really needed very large ones.
We are the 2.
It's just the 2 of us, and also we want to limit counter space use in our kitchen.
And I posted a link to our survey in the chat. Please fill it out and let us know how we did today and what other presentations you might like in the future.
Mindful grips.
Is there any more questions for Isabel or for Leo? Someone asked, if the glass ever breaks, can it be replaced, or do you have to replace the whole cooktop?
I have no idea. I mean, given how appliances are these days, it's like anything goes wrong, it's like replace, I guess.
I don't know.
And and the next question is, how many kilowatts are used in 5 minutes of, I guess it's more of a technical question. Not sure if Leo knows the answer.
I think I don't know. It depends on what you switch on. If you just boil water, I've seen it like 5 kilowatt or so. 5 kilowatt on a one element. If it's like boiling water full force, when you do normally, I don't know.
I guess I have a question for you guys. So I'm Mexican, so we have like dishes that are in heavy pots. How would have you ever used like a heavy
Oh,
pot?
yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use those pots, super
Yeah.
heavy, have different size. This is cast iron, I mean enamel iron, perfect. And you can, like if you do a paella, I mean that's more like Spanish, but you can really brown things down and then do your cooking. Yes, absolutely.
And we have even much bigger and heavier ones, so that's not a problem on the glass. I mean, we cook all the time, and I guess there's tiny scratches on them, but you would really
right, like scratch, remove the pan like that, but
Well, that's good to know.
yeah.
Is there any more questions before we end the workshop? Oh, I guess the next question, how many years in warranty? I guess that's a question for maybe the store, but do you have warranty on your stove?
It was probably one for us.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I think if you just don't get warranty on these things is, I think, in general, relatively short, like an oven or any appliance. It's I don't know what it is, but it would surprise me if the standard warranty would be more than a year. That would be my guess, but I honestly don't know. Depends on the brand. And yeah.
Well, if we don't have any more questions, I just want to thank Isabel for that delicious demonstration. Now I'm hungry. And also, I want to thank Leo for sharing his expertise on induction stoves, and also Vanessa from PCE, Peninsula Clean Energy, for sharing all the available programs that PCE has to offer.